Welcome to our Weapons of Warfare Conference. I am Trendle Vaughn. This is Fatima Vaughn. We've been married for 27 years. We have 2 children. We've been part of the marriage ministry now for over 15 years. Now, before we get started, we got a few housekeeping things we want to give you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section or save them for our Zoom quick Q&A at the end of the conference. We'll answer them then. All right. We are so excited you chose the marriage maintenance session as part of your Weapons of Warfare conference. Today, we're going to be talking to a few couples on how we get to manage the marriage battleground. How do you keep your marriage from becoming a battlefield? Today, we have with us 2 of our fabulous couples. We have Dante and Felita Sims, and we have Ernest and Sharissa Benson with us. We will be asking a series of questions and answering back and forth and just getting our take on how we prevent battles in our marriage and how do we handle when a battle come up in our marriage.
Exactly. And how we're going to be able to do that is just with the questions that we ask so that we can allow the couples to be able to give you guys an example of how it is to go through marriage. Like we said at the introduction, that Trendle and I have been married for 27 years. So you know that we have not been without issues, problems, and challenges that we've had to go through. But we wanted to bring some couples in that have been together for a good amount of time. Ernest, how long have you guys been together?
Right at 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Felita, how long have you guys been
18
together?
years.
Okay. So then we have some couples that have a little seasoning on themselves. So we will go to them.
All right, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dante Sims. This is my beautiful wife, Felita Sims. And like they said earlier, we've been married for 18 years. Together for about 21, 22 years or something like that, but very blessed.
Beautiful. Everyone, Ernest Benson's my wife, Sharissa Benson, my beautiful wife. I need to say that first.
Right.
So together 20 years and married almost 19.
Well, thank you for that. Welcome to the panel. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And with that being said, I'm going to go to the first question. All right, question number 1. In this season, there has been many challenging things happening to everyone. Changes in how you work, how we play, how we shop, and how we live from day to day. In this season, what has been the number 1 challenge you have had, and what did you both have to do to overcome it?
All right, I think we'll start that off. So I think everybody can kind of relate to the problems that COVID-19 has actually placed on everybody. And I think one of the biggest issues that we faced is having to all be under one roof Monday through Sunday from sun up to sundown.
Yes.
You know, having 2 children, both in school, both of ourselves.
A daughter in college.
Right.
Back home.
Yep, daughter came back home. Both of ourselves used to work outside of the home. I used to travel a lot. You know, you being the teacher, one of the biggest challenges we had was to manage everybody working under the same roof every single day. Actually, my daughter has moved back to school, so she's gone from the picture now, but still just having our son there going to school every day and both of us working. Even from the space in the house was a challenge, just kind of establishing work areas for everyone, because you had videos going, and if you just try to do it all in the same room, it actually gets confusing, because I could hear your meetings, you could hear mine, I'm having customers call, and Miles is having his teachers call, so I think it was really challenging in just that sense. And I think one of the biggest things we did was designate areas of the home for everyone. So I work upstairs. You know, Miles takes the first level, and you chose to take the basement. And I didn't put her in the basement, y'all. She chose it. I actually wanted the basement. She said, nope, I was like, all right, you can have it. So I think just kind of setting up just a plan of the geography to where we're going to work at was a big help. And I know we're blessed to have that space. So I couldn't
Right.
imagine, you know, if it was just like a 1-bedroom apartment or a single flat or something like that people having to deal with being right on top of each other all day. Even a dog made a big difference in our life.
Wow.
Because he expects attention from us when we're
Yes.
at home.
Yes.
So you in there, you typing, you on a conference or something, and he'll come and just boom, and like nudge your arm. You're like, dude, hey, wait a minute, I got somebody here on camera. You gotta back up.
Yeah.
And then, or somebody walk past the house, he can see him, he start barking, and you like, oh, hey, I apologize, my dog tripping out right now. You know, so,
Yeah, the whole dynamic has been so different, but I noticed I was the one that was being selfish because I'm walking through singing, I'm walking through just almost, and they're like, hey, is this your husband? And I have to say something. I'm like, you know, so just throwing off everything. So later on, she's like, you know, that was an important phone call. I was on the phone with judges, and I'm like, I didn't mean anything by it. You know, but it really can throw some things off. So not being, I guess, respectful of the other person's space, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go into our second question, which we're kind of getting into it already. Question number 2 is, look at your world, your family life, and your work life, and give us an example of a challenging situation that made you completely adjust your way of thinking. And to kind of give you guys a little bit of where we experienced that, where it changed our thinking forever, was job loss. You know, where you expect that you're going to be on this particular job for a period of time and something happens and you lose your job. This happened for us years ago, but now, you know, it's so prevalent because there's so many people who are losing, you know, their jobs. They're going through. We, you know, thankfully did not have that particular experience at this time, but we know how it felt. And I think, you know, when we put this question out there, it was like, you know, God really wanted us to remember how that felt, you know, to look back and have a little bit more empathy for people who are going through it right now, because it does adjust the way you're thinking. So, you know, it put us both in positions to finish our education, you know, finish our degrees, get more education if you already have that, to maybe make yourself more marketable or put yourself in a position to be able to have, you know, your own, you know, be an entrepreneur, whatever it is. So it just caused us to think completely differently when it came to that particular topic.
And even from a mental standpoint too, because it was a mental thing for me that I didn't even know that I had to deal with, and Fatima had to deal with me with it, because I didn't even know I went into a depression when I lost my job. I never not provided for my family, so that was devastating for me when I lost that job. A job that I'd been on for 13 years, had invested in it, everything. So
Wow.
I'm gonna. Those two dynamics were the biggest things, on top of some health issues that we dealt with too, as far as trying to have children.
Yeah. I'll tell you, so answering the question and chiming into what you said too, you can fall into a depression because the man's used to being the provider. And then now it's like, okay, what am I going, where's the next check coming from? Am I going to have something in time? Am I going to be meet these deadlines? I know that the ComEd man wants his money on this date, and I may not have it this date, so having to go through that. But the biggest one for us was
several.
Yeah, there's several. Being totally honest, there's several. But the biggest one, or the most prevalent one, so to speak, was my mom was sick. So she was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, but that was back in '92, right before I went to basic training. But I didn't find out, or we didn't find out until we were stationed in Pennsylvania, that she actually had sarcoidosis. So, of course, it's been now, she's had a double lung transplant. Right, so God got us through that.
Definitely.
But the dynamic of her moving in with us and me being the only child. So it was hard for me to tell my mom or have to address her about things she was doing wrong in our household, knowing that, hey, listen, you're not the woman in the house. My wife is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can't tell the kids not to do homework, you know, because their mom has them doing homework right after they get out of school. They may get a snack, but we're coming in and my mom was doing totally outside of what we talked about before she moved in. So we set parameters, right? But they weren't being followed. So for me, as the child and the only child of my mom, that was the hardest conversation to have. I was depressed. I was nervous, scared to even approach her, but then at the same time, scared to come back to the bedroom telling my wife that I didn't say anything.
Exactly.
Or,
It changes the whole home transition. Like the family as a whole, with her, with the kids, with how we interact with our marriage. Like if we want to go somewhere, then it almost is like she would get upset sometimes. And so it's like, well, we have to bond as a married couple. So it really changed the whole transition of the house when you bring somebody new into that fold. So that part was a big transition for us too.
Yeah, and that's in-laws. It can be a hard road to manage. To be able to manage. I know people have always said like you want to treat people the way you want to be treated, and I know the different things that we've all experienced in our lives. We have had the opportunity to see what we didn't want to be, but it's something that you have to continuously think about it and say, I'm not going to be like that. No matter how it looks, no matter how you feel. We were talking a little bit, before about, how are our grandkids going to look? How are those relationships going to be? It's like, I can't control anybody else but me.
correct.
I can control me. I can control the peace that I make sure that I maintain. That's all I can do. So if the peace that I maintain means I have to kind of withdraw sometimes from a situation, a person, whatever it is, that's what we have to do, and definitely for our marriages, we have to do that.
And that's a great point that Fatima just brought up, because in our Before I Say I Do class, we have a chapter dedicated to building a relationship with your in-laws. And that's the biggest point we make, is you have to be yourself and work it out that way and develop that relationship with your in-laws and things like that, because you can't, like Fatima said, you can't do nothing outside of who you are. And it's either accept it or not. And but you can't also, one thing we had to is you can't let your mother or father or vice versa play an integral role in between you and your wife. You have to make that decision, because it's you and your wife, not
Correct.
you and the in-laws, you and me and Fatima's mom, or Fatima and my mom and dad and my family. No, that is me and Fatima.
Right.
And we had to make sure that we kept our sanctity with that, and then allow them to come in and drive a wedge between us.
Right.
And you know what's so challenging nowadays is, see, we're blessed to not have many family members or in-laws here, but you know what'll get you tripped up is social media in your family. Because if you post too much on social media, you essentially open the door for family to have opinions, a little bit too many opinions of what's going on in your household.
Very
So
true.
I would highly recommend, and I think it's just kind of been an unspoken rule for us, that we don't post our personal business on social media. People think that we don't argue because of that. We argue, I ain't gonna say all the time, but we have disagreements.
I
of
argue,
course.
he don't argue back.
Right. That's why I ain't saying nothing about that right now. but you gotta be guarded about the information that you put out.
Exactly.
Especially with family, because that's a real sensitive subject. She grew up with the way she grew up with her family. I grew up the way I grew up with my family.
And totally
And it was
different.
different.
Yeah.
I'm a man, she's a woman. She had that relationship with her father and mom, I had mine, and it was totally different. So you can actually get caught up in your marriage, like trying to defend your way of thinking and how you were raised.
Oh, that's a great point.
Which isn't necessarily right or wrong, it's just what you know.
This is what
So
happened.
you have to be careful about, those whole conversations and the whole in-laws thing, and keep them out y'all business. Keep them out your business.
Yeah.
And if I could just kind of piggyback, what helped us to get through that situation is prayer. Me and my mother-in-law always didn't have the best relationship, but I still showed her love despite how she treated us, despite the things that she would try to do to kind of get under our skin. Still showed her love. And I kept the word playing in the background. I kept my praise music on. Like, that's really what helped us get through that situation.
Amen.
And helped us to win her over in the end.
Yeah, definitely. Because you know what? I think what we have a tendency to forget is that they're people also.
Sure.
They have hurts. They have different things that are underlying. There's a root to whatever that issue is. There's a root or a type of dynamic that was there with, with us being raised and things like that. So when we put ourselves in that position, we should start looking at that. We should start looking at, why is this person acting that way? It's not always for us to figure out, but if I can pinpoint, a root to a specific thing, then I can understand better. I can, I'm not going to let you run over us. I'm not going to let you, form a wedge. But like you said, Sharisa, the prayer part of it, that helped me and my husband to pray more and pray more strategic, so that we can pinpoint that thing, because we knew we want to bring people to us, to who we are, because Fatima was a person, Trenda was a person, but together we're something new, we're something different, and God has something that he wants to do and show the world through us.
Correct.
And he's going to start with our families. It's like, this is going to be, all of our families are not saved, so when we get to this place where we can show them how not only longevity in relationships and, but a positive relationship, but a godly marriage. Exactly. And oftentimes we don't always see that walked out. We don't get the opportunity to see it walked out. So when God chooses us to walk it out, I think we need to take that responsibility a little bit more serious.
So we're going to keep on moving with this. I'm going to go to question 3. And in managing our marriages, communication is the key. Mm-hmm. But in challenging seasons, some of the things we know to do gets lost. How do you find your way back to one another in stressful times? Some of the things that Fatima and I did or do now, what we found that I didn't even know was in me. One was we took the time and remodeled our kitchen. We sat in the kitchen one day and I painted the lower cabinets. Fatima painted the upper cabinets. And when we got finished, we sat back there and was like, wow, this is, really nice. And it brought us together. I doing stuff I never was a yard person, getting me out and do some stuff in the yard. It's like, nah, I'm good with that one. I even get out in the yard sometime and help Fatima with the yard. I've been barbecuing.
My husband don't cook. My husband don't cook.
I can cook.
My husband don't cook.
But when it comes to barbecuing, I hate getting that smoke smell in my clothes and all that, and having to go, So it's not that I can't do it. It's just that I don't like to do it because I hate that. I don't want to be walking around smelling like some charcoal. And now I use the wood. So, but since I've been at home, I've been like, wait a minute, let me experiment with some things. So I've been on the grill and we've been doing some stuff. I've been coming up with some stuff, and me and Fatima been like, Fatima just said the other day, my husband spoiled me. We ain't got no food on the grill.
I ain't cooked off.
But the one thing I think I can say that we really like doing together, out of all the things we enjoy together, Fatima really likes to sit down and watch movies. She likes to watch movies, going to a movie. That's her love language. So we didn't find, when sports and stuff went off and when those sports coming on, I found Nollywood movies, which is Nigerian African movies. And they are some of the best movies ever.
Hilarious.
And they're really good to watch. And
written too.
Well written, extremely. And so that's one thing that we do together. So I'm gonna ask you, what some of the things you do in these times when the communication and stuff might get lost or whatever?
One of the things that we make sure to do is have a date night once a week. So every Thursday we designate date night. So no matter what, we know that's our time to be together, to get away from the kids.
Yes.
So even during the pandemic, we kept the kids out the basement, go down there, we watch a movie, have popcorn, everything. So that's something that's consistent that we haven't stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually at the beginning of, when schools were being closed, and I would say probably, I want to say this was like April. I thank God for this. Just saw the kids talking about, a lot of fearful things that was happening in the world, and everybody was just kind of helter-skelter, trying to figure it out, how everybody was going to work under the same roof. And I was like, let's just stop. Let's just all sit down and let's just talk everything out right now. let's just put all your fears and all your concerns and all the troubles that you are facing right now, because we grown and y'all not. Y'all are seeing things totally different from the way that we're seeing it.
Right.
So we sat down and we just hashed out so many things. And we didn't just do it in one night. We actually did it kind of over a series of a couple of weeks.
We actually called it, let's have a family meeting.
Yeah, it was like family meeting
And
time.
anybody can call it.
Yeah, you can call it. Everybody had a chance to choose a topic. It could have been current events, what you were facing, something that you didn't like that I was doing, and vice versa. It was open. They could say whatever they wanted to say, and it was no judgment. You just had to talk to us and tell us what was up. And man, that really helped, I think, all of us to get all our cards on the table and really understand each other's perspective and just keep that line of communication.
And one
open.
criteria is if you call the family meeting, you have to pray us in, pray us out.
Yeah.
So it was
Nice.
it was like really, it felt really good to see our kids praying in and praying out and calling meetings.
Yeah. And for my son, he's not a very talkative person, but he was on it. I was saying, look at this dude over here talking about his daddy like that. Boy, I got a knuckle sandwich for you. I'm happy that you're talking, though.
Right. But that was nice because you created a safe place for them as well. You know, for them to be able to come to you and talk to you about whatever it was they wanted to talk about. And like you said, you didn't even realize like that they have, you know, so much on the inside of them that they want to say.
Right.
That's absolutely amazing. All right. So now we're at question number 4, our final question. In a season of so much sickness, uncertainty, do you guys find safety in one another? And how do you keep fear out of your relationship and the love in?
Well, that's easy. God has to be the foundation. God's word has to be the foundation for your marriage. That will strengthen your union. That will help you to be able to do that. There's no way to do it without it. We've been there.
Listen, I think we've tried. I know I've tried everything but this before, right? And this is the only thing I know that works. This surefire. So, like Sharisa said, staying grounded in the Word and keeping it prevalent, because there's always going to be uncertainty and you saying things or thinking things because you're out in the world going to work and things like that, and people say other things and they can get in your spirit, right? Because transference is actually real. So you have to just stay prayed up. And it may not have to be like a long, elaborate prayer, but like a chant. Hey, Lord, please get me through this, because, you know, you get it from all different directions. It may be friends or work or supervisor or whatever else, but keeping God first, and also reassuring one another all the time. You know, we find ourselves, each other, you know, hey, you can do it, or you got it, or there's a big meeting. Let's go over the meeting. Let's go over it. You talk to me like you talk to the judge.
Right.
Or talk to me like you talk to one of the clients or one of the veterans or whatever else. So I think being over prepared, you know, especially now, doing what's actually going on, helps out a lot. You know?
And just guarding your spirit. Like, you can't let certain things in. You can't let these societal views of what marriage is supposed to be,
Right.
or what people tell you that you should do this and that, and oh, really, you cook every night? You do? Oh. You have to follow what God's word is and what He says marriage is supposed to be. Once we start doing that, things was easy for us. Before, we were forcing it. We were trying to make it. He had his way and I had my way, and that just is not going to work.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
God was our common ground. Once we did that, it just was, you know, it was clockwork. It was easy.
You know, I think it's real important for us, kind of to piggyback on what you were saying, is really guarding the information that you take in.
Yes.
Turning off the TV, stop watching the news, stop, you know, letting that, because it's a lot of garbage on the news right
It
now.
is.
So if you sit there and watch the news every day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, because they'll show it to you all day long if you let them.
Yeah.
That
And
is
it's
so
only
true.
the negative. So you really have to, like you said, guard your spirit from that information that can just overwhelm you on a regular basis.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really does change your conversation, number one, and then it changes, you know, the things that you say. So like when I had to pray more, I had to calm down, and I would say to him, you know, I'm here for you. I'm just checking on you, you know, and just kind of give him a cue to let him know I'm not walking in fear. I'm just trying to be there for you.
Yeah.
And we have to learn, how to do that. When you're the man of the household, it's okay. I am the one that you can fall apart with. I'm the one that you can tell that you are struggling with this and you feel like I can't take no more. So we have to make sure that we remember that about each other, so don't beat me down or push me away. Let me be there for you.
But that's a whole nother learning episode too, because learning actually how to be vulnerable as a man. Like really vulnerable.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, this is a person you've been with 20 plus years, but still being really vulnerable, it can be hard. Yeah. It's like, man, am I really doing this? And then you don't want it to be rehearsed or contrived. So, that's something that I think that as men, that's something we need to practice more, honestly, being vulnerable. And I tell you this, it starts with just telling the truth.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't sugarcoat truth, man.
Yeah.
It is what it is,
And even when you find yourself being fearful, if you have to hammer that word in your head, write it down, repeat it, say it, walk around that house and say it until you get it in your spirit. Sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
So that those feelings can go away. Yeah. You have to keep reciting it, write it down, repeat it, put it up on your mirror in the bathroom, put it on your refrigerator. But sometimes you just have to kind of really beat that word into you based on what you're dealing with.
Yep. That's exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And I have to say that I am a very fearful person, and I worry a lot. And I do pray about it and getting over it. But every little thing I can worry and be afraid about. But I'm so thankful that I have a godly husband. So I could just go to him and he'll calm me down. He'll help me see it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I tell him, as long as he follows God, I will follow him. So
Amen. That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Well, we want to thank you guys for coming and sitting with us today, for answering these very intimate questions. But this has given us the opportunity to be able to share the wisdom of God through our marriage, what he's given us, how he's raised us up, how he strengthens us and walks us through these challenges in our marriages. So we thank you guys again for being with us.
And we thank you all for joining in with us and sharing this moment with us. And again, if you have any questions, if you joined us late, if you have a question or a comment, drop them in the chat box, or you can save them for the Q&A. And we'll see you at the WOW Q&A later on this afternoon. Thank you for coming.